Hello everyone, my name is More Welcome. Today I would like to share the story of South Sudan. Some people may ask, why do we celebrate the 9th of July as our independence? And why did South Sudan separate from what was once our mother country, Sudan? What events led to millions of people to fight for the right to govern themselves? Let's call this South Sudan liberation struggle and the journey of independence. So why did South Sudan liberation struggle begin? The conflict between the North and the Southern Sudan began even before Sudan became independent. South Sudan did not become independent because someone simply decided to let us go. Our independence was not handed to us peacefully, unlike the Israelites in the Bible, whose journey to freedom is described as being guided by God out of Egypt. South Sudan path to independence came through decades of civil war, immense sacrifice, determination of millions of people who refused to give up their dream to govern themselves. The main cause of the war, one of them is political marginalization of the people of South Sudan. So, people of South Sudan had little influence in the national government. Most important government positions and political powers were controlled by leaders in Northern Sudan. As a result, many Southerners felt excluded from decision making and believed their interests were not represented. Good. Another one was unequal economic development. Uh, the, the country's wealth and development were not shared fairly. Northern Sudan received more investment in roads, schools, hospitals, and other infrastructure. So while the Southern Sudan remained underdeveloped, the country, the country's wealth and development were not shared fairly. As the Northern Sudan received more investment on roads, schools, hospitals, and other infrastructure. So you will ask yourself, how about the University of Juba? Well, those came after the CPA. So one which is really a challenge also was religion and culture difference. North Sudan was mainly Muslim and Arab, while South Sudan was made up largely of Christians and followers of traditional African religion. With many different ethnic groups and culture, many Southerners believe that their government try to impose Arab culture and Islamic laws on the whole country, which threaten their own identity and traditions. Another one was a lack of regional autonomy. The Southerners didn't have the right of region to govern itself and make decisions about its own affairs. South Sudan had limited control over its political, economical, and administrative matters because most decisions were made by central government in Khartoum. Another one was competition over natural resources, especially the oil. So light oil reserves were discovered in South Sudan, making oil an important source of wealth. And then, however, there was disagreement over who should control the fields and how the revenue should be shared. And this competition over natural resources generated tension and became one of the major causes of conflict. The first civil war began in 1955 with the maternity in Dorrit, shortly before Sudan's independence. So it happened, civil war began in 1955, 1972, something like that. And it took roughly 17 years. And the main rebel group was Anyanya. Anyanya means uh, snake poison, or snake venom, something like that. And then the main leader or the founder was Joseph Logo, who later combined those small rebel groups and became one strong one called Anyanya. And their main goal was create autonomy, self-rule for Southern Sudan. And later the outcome of the Sababa peace agreement granted South Sudanese limited self-government and temporarily ended the war, something like that. And the second civil war resumed in 1983. The Sudanese government cancelled the southern autonomy and imposed Islamic rules across the country. The Sudanese civil war uh, started in 1983 to 2005. It lasts almost 22 years. Almost the main liberation movement, the South Sudan Liberation Movement, SPLM, and its military wing, the South Sudan Liberation Army, led the struggle. There were almost three important leaders. We have one, uh, John Garang, the founder and commander of SPLM. John Garang, the Mabio, commonly known as Dr. John Garang, was the South Sudanese military commander, politician, and revolutionary leader who founded the SPLM in 1983 and revolutionary South Sudan liberation struggle. On July 2005, only a few weeks after taking office, Dr. John Grant died, and it was really sad. And some quotes he say, and I quote, one of them is, the problem of Sudan is not the problem of South alone. It's the problem of the whole country. وما شمال كله شمالين ذاته تعبانين ده مشكلة السلطة في الخرطوم. This quote reflects his long-held that belief that the country's challenge requires a broad political reform, and rather than benefiting only one region. Salva Kiir Mayardit was one of those key influential guys during the liberation struggle. Salva Kiir Mayardit succeeded after the death of Garang. Salva Kiir is a South Sudanese politician, military leader, and one of the key figures in the South Sudan liberation struggle. He has served as the first and current president of South Sudan since the country's gained independence on 9 July 2011. Before independence, he was the president of he was the president of the government of Southern Sudan 2005 2011 and the first vice president of Sudan. Another one was Dr. John Garang. Riek Machar, a senior SPLM commander whose relationship with the government changed over time. And Riek Machar commonly known as Dr. John Garang, commonly known as Dr. Riek Machar, the South Sudanese politician, former rebel commander, and one of the most influential and controversial figures. So to say that, but in South Sudan history. He has served as the first vice president of South Sudan over different times and has played major roles in both the liberation struggle and the country's political after independence. In 2005, the South Sudan government and SPLM signed the comprehensive peace agreement. And this peace agreement ended the Second Civil War, created the autonomous government of Southern Sudan, and shared oil revenues. Something like that. And allowed Southern Sudanese to hold independence referendum after 6 years. Guess what? At the 2011 independence referendum, between the 9th to 15th of January 2011, the people of South Sudan voted on whether to become an independent country. And guess what? 99% of people voted in favor of us to be an independent country. That was really great. And on 9 July 2011, South Sudan officially became an independent nation and later joined the United Nations and the African Union. It was really exciting. Later on, we had our national anthem, our flag after independence, and some of the best figures in South Sudan. We can really shout out to them. I have one, Dr. John Garang Mabio, His Excellency Salva Kiir Mayardit, General Joseph Lago, William Nyon Bench, Carbino Kwanyin Ball, Arok, Gil Chong, Honorable one of the best known figures in South Sudan include Dr. John Garang, His Excellency Salva Kiir Mayardit, Joseph Lago, William Nyon Bench, Carbino Kwanyin Ball, Arok, Gil Chong Along, and also my dad did this part. I'm not talking. Thousands of soldiers and civilians also sacrificed their lives, and many communities. Conclusion, I would say the South Sudan liberation struggle is one of Africa's longest independency and movement. Through decades of sacrifice, determination, uh, and negotiation, something like that, the people of South Sudan achieved their dream of independence on 9 July, making it the world's youngest country. The liberation struggle lasted for more than 50 years and marked by two major civil wars, and that was the peace agreement and the referendum. And that allowed the people to decide their future. So if South Sudanese citizens remain happy independence in South Sudan, and thank you all. Bye.